Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be fairly short, I think. We're going to be fitting the alternator back onto the engine. Now, because of where the oil pump sits for the dry sump, I'm going to be moving the alternator over to this side here. So the water pump normally sits here, but I'm going to use these three bolt holes to mount a bracket to hold the top of the alternator, and down here the idea is to mount a bracket there so I can tension it. The only thing that's going to be driven off of this crank pulley, other than obviously the oil pump, is the alternator. So it's effectively just going to come around here, the belt that is going to come around here, around the alternator, and there's going to be some method of tensioning the belt on the bottom. So there's going to be no other pulleys, there's obviously no power steering, there's no air conditioning or anything like that being run off there, so that'd be fairly clean. So like I said, the water pump's normally here. I won't be running a mechanical water pump, I'm running an electric one. Not entirely sure where I'm going to be fitting that yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'll be honest, I did do a little bit last night. I didn't film it because the battery was flat, and I'll be honest, it wouldn't have been the best viewing because it was purely cutting up bits of plate and drilling holes in them several times because I got it wrong first time. For something that is simple as this, it took quite a while to do. So this is what I've got in a minute. So this is a plate that we've mounted to the block using these three holes here. That hole there was already on the plate. I actually thought I would end up cutting off probably above that, so I would have lost it anyway, but turns out it's going to be there. Not really much of an issue. And these plates are going to get welded to make the bracket. Obviously they're going to be the same width as that. I've already done the calculations, which has set this here. I don't know if you can pick that up on the camera, but that score line there is on the inside of where this bracket needs to be. So I've already calculated that. It looks visually about right, but until that's welded on there and mounted up, I'm not going to know if that's entirely correct. I'll give it a go anyway. So like I said, I don't have any footage of filming that, but as you can see, it wouldn't have been the most interesting to watch. I'm going to get this acetoned up, fire up the TIG, and give it a go. Hopefully it turns out all right. Right, so we're ready for weld now. I've done a quick test pass on a bit of scrap material. It took quite a few amps. I think we're at 160 amps on this, just because it's fairly thick material, and it's going to need some penetration on there. I've set up a little jig or fixture to hold it together. I mean, there is a difference between the two, but I'll leave that for you to decide which this is. This is basically to hold it in place whilst I weld it, and hold it at 90 degrees. Also, it will take quite a lot of heat away from this because these are both aluminium sections. It'll hopefully keep it flat because I don't want to be warping this anyway. And this here is obviously just to rest my wrist on as I take the torch across. Sake. Shit. Okay, that first weld didn't go half as well as I had hoped, actually. With all of the bits of extruded aluminium around it, it just took all of the heat out of it, and it took forever to make a puddle. And probably my inexperience. I tried to get in there too early with the filler rod, and it just balled on the end of the filler, and it didn't wet in. As soon as I took it off of that, it went a lot better. It went much the same as the test welds went. So there you go. You can see I've put the alternator already on there, but the weld is in there. It looks all right actually, but like I say, it didn't go quite as well as I'd hoped. I've put that in there now. There's still quite a lot of heat in there, so I was keen to get this going before all the heat came out. I'll tack it in place and then remove the alternator and get a bit more weld on there. It didn't seem to move or warp or anything like that, probably because of the thickness, but I'm going to crack on with that before it gets too cold. That one didn't come out so bad. Obviously there was a fair bit more heat in that one, and it went in quite smoothly. Yeah, so I'll let that cool down a little bit and bolt it up to the car, see if I can get the alternator on there, and I'll see what the alignment's like. Okay, I've bolted it on the car, and that is how it looks. So the alignment looks okay. Not an exact science, but I have a bit of aluminium here, and it sits on the pulleys quite nice and straight. Seems to be central across the both of them. I have actually, I've also tried sticking this in the grooves, and they do line up, and maybe half a mil out or something like that, but it seems to be pretty good. Okay, so the way that this is going to adjust belt tension is on the bottom here, which is still yet to be fixed. I'm going to have some sort of either a slot or a rose joint or something like that, so I can tension the belt here. I will have to notch out, or use, actually I'll probably end up using a dome fixing here rather than a cap head. Gives me a little bit more clearance there. That sits in between. There's a little relief in the side of this, which that cap head at the minute is sat in, which is preventing this from having any more play in it. But there's a fair bit there. You wouldn't actually need any more than that. It is quite tight in here. It took a bit of persuading to get in there, but I imagine that's because this was all hot when I clamped it in, and now it's cooled down, it's shrunk a little bit. But you know, if it ain't tight, it's probably loose. Obviously I'll be able to snug that up once the tension is preset. But it looks to be alright. There's plenty of clearance around the back of here. The only one concern, not a huge concern really, because I'll be able to insulate it, is obviously this is where the positive lead is going to be coming from, and that's fairly close to the engine mount. Like I say, so long as it's properly insulated, that won't be an issue. Just in case I don't get any more done on this, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, subscribed. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below. And if not, I'll see you next time. Cheers.